Stand up for what is right. Do what is right. Say what is right. Even if you are standing alone, even if you are talking alone, even if you are raising your hands alone, raise it for what is right. At this point, let me give this very short lead off so that I'll call the man who is going to lead us in the proceeding today to the table here to take up the mantle. But before we go in, I want to reach out to all of us. Every time we go all out with passion to express our opinion as far as corruption, which is endemic in this country, is concerned. We all feel that corruption should be stamped out of this country. We all feel that the good things of life will not get to us if there are some people who make away with millions and billions of naira. But the question is, have you asked ourselves what it entails to stand and fight corruption? Do we realize that corruption do fight back? And do we realize that the individuals that personify corruption are so powerful that if we are not articulate, if we allow ourselves fear, if we don't know what we are doing, it is possible for us to end up in the pockets of these very powerful people. All of us know what $800 million can do. If I have $800 million in my pocket, it is possible I'll call a clergy to come and pray for me, and he will say all the prayers for me. It cannot enter my pocket. Okay, somebody said it cannot enter my pocket. You see, so what I'm trying to get across is, in fighting corruption, we should realize that we are going to step on toes, and these toes will not spare us. The toes will fight back, but if we are not articulate, we may end up in the pocket of these very big people. Once again, I welcome you, and at this point in time, I want to invite the executive secretary. I've been corrected so many times, and while coming here, I said, I'm not going to say the general secretary, it's the executive secretary of Human and Environmental Development Agenda, my comrade, my Oga, and my friend, Mr. Arigbabu Sulaiman. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Yes, I will hand over to him. He's going to take over from, he's going to handle the entire proceeding today, but I want to also invite the Executive Director of Human and Environmental Development Agenda. Yes, I want him to sit with you. You don't want him to sit with you? Okay, you don't know him. You don't know him. Me, I know him. Don't put me in trouble. Yes, let me also invite a friend of the house. Not only a friend of the house, we've gone through several parts together. We've been fighting together. He has always been with us. Mr. Damole, please. Yes, I want you to please join this. Yes. And I'm going to stun one my comrade because I didn't tell him that I'm going to do that. But you know, when you have the mic, you have the power to do and undo. I'm the general overseer here. Before I hand over to, please permit me to bring on the high table my comrade, my friend, comrade Inibe Efio. Please put your hands together. It's a coup. I told you it's a coup. I haven't done that. Please, one lesson is that if you stand on starting your program at the exact time in Nigeria, this is the type of space you have. But we'll keep pushing. Once again, I welcome you. Good morning. And I hand over to the chairman of this forum. You're welcome, sir.
All right. Good morning, dear civil society colleagues and gentlemen of the press. Good morning, dear civil society colleagues, gentlemen of the press. Well, I think I'm holding the mic close enough. I should swallow it. Oh, is it my face or is affecting the volume? For the record, this is my face. I know they hide face. Even though I don't get money, but I know they hide my face. But I still think that to observe some of the COVID-19 protocols, we'll try not to cough into the mic. So once again, thank you everybody for honoring our invite. As you are aware, this is not the first time we're actually holding this kind of parley on the OPL245 Malibu heist, as we like to call it. You would understand that this is one of the worst cases of corruption in the oil industry anywhere in the world. It is unique not only in its volume, but also in the brazenness with which it was done. Now, it is even breaking another record in the impunity with which the people who should be behind bars, are trying to change the narrative and subvert the cause of justice. Unfortunately for them, they are backing the wrong horse. They are confronting people who sold him of doing what we do is because we believe that no matter what happens, do the right thing, stand by the truth, even if you are standing alone. We have no other motivation other than our love for our country, our love for the downtrodden people of this country. And I believe, because we are also people of faith, that there will be a day of reckoning. And everybody must account for whatever has been, entrusted to them. Whether we are leaders or at whatever level we played in the world, if you have been entrusted with some form of trust, how did you discharge yourself? So unfortunately for these people, they did not realize that the people they are contending with are motivated by such values as I've expressed. If our motivation were to be in those inanities and modernities as they had expected, of course, the narrative would have changed because they would have either bought our conscience or been able to blackmail us into silence. None of that will happen. So they are backing the wrong horse, and the earlier they know that, the better. All we are asking for is that justice be done, restitution be done to this country, and that those who were brazen enough to steal resources that should have bettered the lot of the people of this country be made to face the law. They should have their day in court. Already they are having it, and they want to use backyard means of escaping justice. We won't let them. So once again, I welcome you to this interaction. We are open to questions, not only about the shenanigans that is happening recently on this matter, but if you also want to know further efforts about getting to resolve or getting to the bottom of the Malibu OPL245 issue, we are open to your questions and will provide answers to the best of our ability. As you all know, there are cases going on outside of Nigeria, which Nigeria instituted, and some which have been instituted by jurisdictions of places where some of these companies are from. And you might have heard, of course, that, parties alleged in one of the trials have been acquitted. Well, we have news, and we'll be giving you that information in the course of our address. I decided to take this little time so that we could push the time a little bit closer to 11 before I start my address, hoping that a few more people will join us. Am I in order? Yeah, because the exact address itself will be just about 30 minutes, and then we hope to take interaction for another 30 minutes. Yeah, okay, so for lack of, this stand-up comedian, they are doing a lot of work. So for lack of anything to say, and my mouth is running dry, I am going to try and get to the proper assignment that I've been given for today. So please just bear with me for a minute. Oh, great. So with your kind permission, I want to proceed to read the text of our address, which will form the basis of our engagement this morning. Let me allay your fear. You might have seen a bulky document with me. What we have done with this address is that we have tried to do some excerpts of documents that are critical to your understanding of happenings around OPL245 matter. Let me scare you. There are over 90,000 documents presented in courts in evidence of what has happened to this country. We are in possession of those documents, and we shall be releasing information as time goes by. However, today what we have done is that we have listed some critical timelines in the development of this story. So I will not be reading all that we have explained under those timelines, but I will just be calling your attention to them. But with this document alone, you can get a good understanding of how each of those timelines are related to what we are talking about. So with your permission, once again, I want to go ahead and read this. Being text of a statement read at the Civil Society and Media Parley on OPL245 oil deal and recent local development in the matter held at the Colossus Hotel, Sheraton, Okwebi Link Road, Ikeja, Lagos, on the 29th day of September 2021. OPL245, Malibu Grand Haste and the raping of a nation. Foiling Mohammed Bello Adoke's getaway plan and victimization of Olanrewaju Suraju. Once again, good morning, gentlemen of the press and dear civil society colleagues. We thank you for joining us today as we seek to update Nigeria and indeed the world on how impunity and manipulation of public institutions is subverting the course of getting justice and restitution for this country in an oil deal that has been severally described as perhaps the most brazen haste in the oil sector in any part of the world. This is pertinent going by the Yoruba adage that says, if you hesitate in apprehending a thief, the thief becomes emboldened and arrests the victims. This aptly described attempt by Mr. Adoke in the last 7 months to subvert the course of justice and perfect a getaway plan from the Malibu oil haste. It is thus our resolve to keep the matter in public domain, regardless of the harassment and blackmail from Mr. Adoke, his police friends, and some corrupt media executives. As you are aware, Heather Resource Center and our 3 other international anti-corruption partners were the subject of a wholly unfounded allegations of forging an email that seek to indict Mr. Adoke of complicity in the diversion of over $1 billion Nigeria's money to a private bank account from the Malibu oil deal. Despite the fact that the email in question was furnished by the UK authorities in response to a mutual legal assistance request by the Milan prosecutor in Italy, in the trial of any Shell and other international corruption related to the OPL245 transaction in 2011. Though the defendants in that trial were acquitted, the ruling actually indicted Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, even though he was not on the charge list. Equally, the Milan prosecutors and the Federal Republic of Nigeria have appealed the judgment in Italy. You will also be aware of a purported police report published in some online media platforms alleging that the police indicted Olanrewaju Suraju of cyber stalking and accused Elder Resource Center of being an unregistered organization. We therefore wish to set the record straight and cut the wind off the sail of the lies and shenanigans of Mr. Adoke and his group. The email in question was sent by Mohammed Adoke on 21st June 2011 to JP Morgan Chase Bank. The email address used was agrouproperties@yahoo.com. Please note, the allegations of forgery were made by Mohammed Bello Adoke SAN, a person under investigation and prosecution by the Federal Government of Nigeria through the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. As set out below, the allegation that we forged the email is entirely fanciful. Our own research confirms that the email address is associated with a Mr. Aliyu Abubakar and two of his companies that benefited from the OPL245 deal. If, as claimed by Mr. Adoke SAN, that the email was not sent by him, there is just a strong likelihood that it emanated from Mr. Aliyu Abubakar or an associate or employee of his company. If so, there are strong grounds for suspecting that the email was a cyber crime. If somebody forged an email, that's a cyber crime, right? Involving the impersonation of Mr. Adoke in order to defraud the Federal Republic of Nigeria of funds that should, that is on Nigeria's own account now, what Nigeria said about that fund, have bettered Nigeria. I'm quoting the Federal Government of Nigeria in this regard. Please note that this is a case in which Nigeria has invested inestimable resources and provide immense technical and professional support to partner agencies in Italy, UK, and the Netherlands. Hence, the need to lay the fact bare in public domain. The email in context. Correspondence between JP Morgan and Federal Government of Nigeria officials or purported officials in 2011. Please don't forget, the history of this deal did not even start in 2011. It started as far back as when Dan Etete was the Minister for Petroleum. But the stealing of this amount, because OPL245 is not all about just $1.1 billion. We are talking of tens of billions of dollars in value. In what Nigeria has lost, there are many angles to the OPL245 case, but we just want to stick with this Adoke issue. And because it was in 2011 that Adoke became part of the story. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is currently suing JP Morgan Chase in the English High Court for damages relating to the bank's handling of funds arising from Shell and any alleged corrupt acquisition of OPL245 oil field in Nigeria. Case number CL-2017-000730. At paragraph 54D of the Federal Republic of Nigeria's re-amended particulars of claim, the Federal Republic of Nigeria states that on 21st July 2011, Mohammed Adoke, Nigeria, this is Nigeria talking. Now, Mohammed Adoke, who was Attorney General of the Federation at the time of the deal, corresponded with JP Morgan from the email address agrouproperties@yahoo.com. At paragraph 46D of JP Morgan Chase re-amended defense, that is the response of JP Morgan Chase now, they admitted to the existence and content of the email As the Federal Republic of Nigeria points out in paragraph 54E of its amended claim, a group is a group of Nigerian companies controlled by Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, a company named A Group Construction and another called Novel Properties and Development Company Limited, subsequently became vehicles through which some of the OPL245 funds transferred by JP Morgan to a company named Malibu Oil and Gas were disbursed. You will soon get to know who Mr. Aliyu Abubakar is if you do not already know him. The email forms part of a chain of correspondence between JP Morgan, Chase, and officials of the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan. Ultimately, this correspondence led to JP Morgan transferring a whopping $801 million to Malibu Oil and Gas, money that should have gone to the Federation account. The Federal Republic of Nigeria's amended particulars of claims set out the trail of emails and correspondences with the bank that led to this loss. The chronology, together with the FRN's commentary, is set detailed below. The email from a Mohammed Adoke is highlighted in red, as will be seen. It formed part of a series of mails and phone calls aimed at persuading JP Morgan to transfer funds arising from OPL245 transaction to Malibu Oil and Gas. In court proceedings in the UK, the Federal Republic of Nigeria has described the OPL245 transaction as corrupt and a conspiracy to injure Nigeria by unlawful means by depriving the Federal Republic of Nigeria of monies for the grant of OPL245 to which it was lawfully and exclusively entitled. So I'm going to just do a list of mails that are relevant. We are going to provide you soft copies of this so that in case you want to do a feature on it, you want to do further investigation, you are free to go. And if you need further evidence, like I said, there is a well of over 90,000 documents, all presented in evidence in court. 24th May 2011. Let me just take a couple of them and then I'll list the rest. The sum of $1,092,040,000 was deposited in the escrow account of Nigeria. This was the money which had been received from the Shell Eni Consortium. On the same day, the same sum of that same amount I've quoted was transferred from the escrow account to the FGN depository account. All along, the money is still in safe haven. 25th May, apparently on the instruction of the Federal Minister of Finance, Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja, and in our evidences, a lot of such facts will be sent from that same hotel regarding this deal. This is how people rule Nigeria by proxy. From Transcorp Hilton Hotel Abuja, rather than the Ministry of Finance, JP Morgan was instructed to transfer that said amount, $1,092,040,000 to Petro Services Company. Although the account in fact belonged to Petro Services Company, LP, at BSI Lugano in Switzerland, with all the, we have quoted the account details. Now, on the 31st of May, in accordance with the instruction, the funds were sent to the account of Petro Services Company, and then there are a lot of, so we have, you'll be hearing the names of Bayo Osholake, who is a Nigerian working at JP Morgan, and the role he played in facilitating the diversion of this fund by Adoke. We have also Danladi Kifasi, purportedly the permanent secretary of Federal Ministry of Finance at that time. We have Ismaila Aliyu, who described himself as representing the Federal Ministry of Finance. So quite a lot of this. We have listed so many of them. A letter was also sent from a particular Yerima Lawan in Ghana, Minister of Finance, from the Ministry of Finance, and Otunla Jonah Oguniyi, the Accountant General of the Federation, instructing JP Morgan to irrevocably transfer the sum of $801,540,000 to Malabo account with Banque Merci Libars in Lebanon. You know, the annoying thing is that some of these banks, doing due diligence and following best practices, actually refused those orders. The Swiss bank, the Lebanese bank, but how JP Morgan ended up sabotaging this country is a case for the court in England to determine. So we have listed a number of all of this, and we have also referenced our sources. Like we said, we are a repository. In our thus far, and I can tell that many more are still coming out. Now, back to this statement. Additional document, Bello Adoke knew the email address of Bayo Oshola, the JP Morgan employee to whom the email of 21 June 2011 from A Group Properties at yahoo.com was sent. This is the email that is in contention. Prior to the transmission of the said email, former Attorney General Mohammed Bello Adoke sought to issue transfer instruction to JP Morgan Chase on behalf of the federal government of Nigeria on 20th of June. Mind the date. On 20th of June, when he was not an office holder, you remember that when President Goodluck Jonathan became president due to the death of late Musa Yar'Adua, cabinet was reshuffled, and Adoke then became the Minister for Justice. But after the election in 2011, the cabinet was dissolved, pending when the new cabinet was reconstituted and Adoke resumed his office. Between that time, he could not even wait, perhaps maybe just in case he was not reappointed. You know, this is politics. So as a private citizen, he was negotiating away the wealth of this country. This is the kind of crime that people commit in our places, and they come out and be preaching to the rest of us. Mohammed Bello Adoke likely caused the said mail of 21 June 2011 to be sent on his behalf. Details on the additional document are set below, and we have listed all of those details that you can actually go through and read. But let me quickly read a part of this. The email was sent as a follow-up in an in-person meeting on 12th of May between Mr. Adoke, then the Attorney General, and by then the government, the cabinet had not been dissolved. They had a personal meeting. I mean, whether official or personal, in-person meeting. And Mr. Osholake to discuss the opening of the federal government of Nigeria escrow account with JP Morgan. This email establishes that Mr. Osholake was Mr. Adoke's prime contact at JP Morgan, and that Mr. Adoke and Osholake's email address had Mr. Osholake's email address from 13th May. Document 2, email from Simon Lloyd, JP Morgan. On 24th June, Simon Lloyd, executive, you can read all of these ones, the emails, the transactions, the communication that went between Mr. Adoke and some top people in JP Morgan. Then the part that should interest us is that on the email attached as tab 2, the timeline in Mr. Lloyd's email records, on the 20th June, a call was received, phone call, from Mr. Adoke. So if he's denying email, we have also brought call. The former Nigerian Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Adoke stated that the federal government of Nigeria would like to give JP Morgan another instruction to make payment to a separate account number in another bank. Mr. Adoke proposed that in the absence of a serving Minister of Finance, because the new cabinet was not yet appointed, the instructions to JP Morgan will come from the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Finance, the highest civil servants in the ministry. JP Morgan's response was that this would not be sufficient, and JP Morgan would need to be instructed by the new Minister of Finance, who in the agreement is the authorized representative of the federal government of Nigeria. Mr. Adoke has confirmed through his lawyer, Kanu Agabi, CONSON of Kanu Agabi and Kanu G. Agabi and Associates, that he was not an officer of the Nigerian state government or government appointee as of 20th of June. In a petition sent to the Inspector General of Police on behalf of Adoke, which is available online, Mr. Agabi wrote that the email is dated 21st June. This was a time when Mr. Mohammed Adoke was not in office as the Honorable Attorney General of the Federation, owing to the dissolution of the Federal Executive Council by President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan before his reigning on 29th May 2011. As the President of the Federal Republic, and our client was only reappointed as Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice on July 2nd, 2011. During this period, 29 May 2011 to July 2nd, 2011, Mr. Adoke Bello was on holiday abroad as a private citizen. Please note, he also agreed that he was a private citizen. So the question would be, as a private citizen, was he actually negotiating the wealth of this country or not? It means that he also appreciated that he should not have done that as a private citizen. As a private citizen, and did not have any dealings with official matters on behalf of the government of the Federation of Nigeria, including official matters about the OPL245 settlement agreement, in the form of the mail 2106-2011, as it was inconceived as a private citizen. Please, as it was inconceived as a private, so they know what is right. So the question is, did Adoke actually do this, or did this, whatever the grammar is, inconceivable act of a private citizen representing the government of Nigeria without due approval? So that is the, and we want to keep you in focus of the substance. They want to shift the focus. The focus is, was money of this country stolen? Did private people negotiate away the wealth of this country? And who are those people? And of course, the email in question, did Eda and our partners forge the email, or is it an email that is duly gotten via well-established intergovernmental process? These are the questions. This is the substance of the matter. The Milan prosecutor, MLA to the UK, the email of 21 June 2011 from the A Group Properties at yahoo.com address was accepted as evidence in Milan trial in late January 2011. The process whereby it became part of the court file is detailed below. On 23rd November 2020, after the Corner House and Global Witness and Recommon, some of our European partners in this quest to get restitution for Nigeria, became aware of the Federal Republic of Nigeria's amended particulars of claim in the FRN versus JP Morgan case, they wrote to the Milan prosecutor to draw his attention to the email, which was believed to be relevant to the prosecution in Milan of Royal Dutch Shell, Enispar, Dan Etete, and others for alleged international corruption in relation to OPL245 deal. All the defendants, for now, are acquitted, but there is a process of appeal going on in that country. On 24th November 2020, the Milan prosecutor issued a European investigation order to the UK, seeking the email from JP Morgan. Please, are you seeing the trail of this mail? Nigeria instituted an action against JP Morgan in the UK that, hey, we kept our money with you and you gave it to private people. JP Morgan was then charged to court in UK, and JP Morgan said to the judge, my lord, it is not so. It is Nigerian officials that asked me to do. How did they say so? I have evidence. Among the evidences brought, tendered by JP Morgan in court, even though it's a foolish evidence in any case, and it shows how some of these multinational banks and private entities are fleecing Africa of resources that should have developed the continent. It's a criminal thing that they have done. And I leave that to the court in England, to decide upon. But they did tender evidences, among which is this email that we are talking about. And when the attention of the Milan prosecutor, who was prosecuting Shell, Eni, Etete, and some others, was drawn to the existence of such an email that will help his case, he initiated an European investigation order, which is like what we call the mutual legal assistance order, that please, I need some of the evidence that have been tendered in your court. And the British authorities provided that to the Italian authorities. And the Italian prosecutor in Milan presented this as evidence in court. When that was done, the media, both international and those of Nigeria, widely reported this. And all that Eda did was to follow up with what the media was reporting. We did know that some organizations like Premium Times, like Sahara Reporters, did extensive investigative work on this matter. And we also followed up on what they are doing. So how that now become an email that Eda is alleged to have forged is the issue that we want Nigerians to pay attention to. So there, of course, the forgery allegations were made. The presentation of the email to the Milan tribunal received wide publicity, both international and in Nigeria. In response, Mohammed Adoke's lawyer, Kanu Agabiesian, wrote a petition to Nigeria's Inspector General of Police on 5th of February 2021, stating, in quote, the individuals who initiated the petitions, investigation, and the criminal trial at the Court of Milan have engaged in acts of forgery of the email documents dated 21 June 2011, end of quote. Agabi's letter was officially received by the police on 10th of February 2021. The letter was published in an online newspaper in Nigeria. The petition also states the persons, organizations behind these forgeries are the ones that authored the petition to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission demanding the investigation of OPL245 resolution agreement. Yoruba says that it is cowardice that will say that, well, I don't fight on foreign territories. You fight, you confront a fight where it comes to you. That is the act of valor. Adoke's letter did not mention names. However, Global Witness, the Corner House, and Recommon were the signatories to the complaint that led to the investigation and subsequent prosecution in Milan. Heather Resource Center had also submitted a petition to Nigeria's EFCC that led to the current prosecution of Messrs. Adoke and Aliyu in Nigeria. So I think we are beginning to draw it home now. Now, these are response to the so-called allegations of forgery. On 1st of March 2021, Corner House, Recommon, and Eda wrote to the Inspector General of Police. We have attached a letter to the Inspector General of Police, categorically denying Mr. Adoke's assertion that we forged the email. The letter was copied to the Milan Public Prosecutor's Office and the UK Home Office, either of which would have been able to demonstrate the veracity or otherwise of the following facts. One, the email first came to light in 2020 as part of civil proceedings by the Federal Republic of Nigeria against JP Morgan Chase in the High Court in London, where it was disclosed by JP Morgan Chase and cited by the Federal Republic of Nigeria in support of his claim. So, an email that Nigeria cited is the one that we have been alleged of forging. The Milan prosecutor obtained the email through a mutual legal assistance request to the UK government. The email, which was sent from an email account associated with A Group Properties, was received by an employee of JP Morgan Chase who had previous correspondence with Mr. Adoke on 21st of June 2011. At the time, none of our group knew of the existence of A Group Properties. We didn't know him. We don't see the advert of A Group Properties on CNN, so we might have missed it. So we didn't know him. We didn't know of the existence of Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, nor of the OPL245, resolution agreements that were attached to the email. And this resolution agreement, if you are not a top government person as of that time when this deal was done, you would never have had access to it. Not just anybody, not just any directors in the relevant ministries would have had access to it. At the time, these agreements were secret and would only have been accessible to parties to the deal, their associates and government officials. The existence of the resolution agreement did not come into public domain until late 2011, months after the email was sent. This alone suggests that the email was sent or initiated by someone with official access to the document. The original email, as received by JP Morgan, will have properties and electronic information that would enable the identification of the internet protocol address from which it was sent. This is the kind of investigation we're hoping will be done when we wrote counter petition to the IG. You know, one is now wondering if there was any investigation done, because the total deviation from the issues, the substance of the matter. In our letter to the IGP, we stated, we recognize that the email will certainly appear damaging to Mr. Adoke. It is therefore understandable that he should try to discredit it. However, the notion that a document furnished by the UK in response to an MLA is a forgery is both entirely fanciful and highly damaging to the reputation of trusted parties to the MLA process. It was obtained through a government-to-government request from Italy to the United Kingdom. The document is now part of the public record, and it is clear from the correspondence that the email was obtained from JP Morgan by the UK Serious Fraud Office and transmitted to the Milan prosecutor. None of the organizations or officials was involved at any stage in this chain of custody. We were not involved in the chain of custody of this mail. The mail will certainly appear damaging to Mr. Adoke, who is charged in Nigeria with a number of offenses arising from OPL245 deal. Specifically, the email points to an association between Mohammed Bello Adoke and the Abubakar company that subsequently arranged the purchase of the house for Mr. Bello Adoke. Mr. Adoke failed to challenge this alleged forged document when it was submitted to the Milan prosecutor, to the Milan court during prosecution of Mr. Etete, another defendant. We had suspected that Mr. Adoke's complaint to the police was a deliberate attempt to provide the cause of justice, and subsequently submitted a counter petition to the police with details of the matter for proper investigation. We also have a copy of that. This counter petition was assigned to the DIG of 4 CID, who subsequently directed the Cyber Crimes Unit to investigate the petition. Please note that the fact that Mr. Adoke was repatriated from the United Arab Emirates, you, the media and civil society are aware that the man was at some point unavailable for prosecution in Nigeria. But the Nigerian government and the Messrs. Adoke and Abubakar are facing trial in 3 different cases arising from the investigation of OPL245 case. In addition, the Federal Republic of Nigeria has recovered $78 million. Yes, it is paltry, but it means a lot to the people of this country, and we will not rest until we recover everything. Related to the OPL245 deal from the UK, money that was recovered as stolen asset. The Federal Republic of Nigeria is also a civil party to the Milan trial. Depending on the outcome of the trial, the Nigerian state stands to benefit potentially from substantial compensation. Now, Abubakar Aliyu and the A group. We have been mentioning Abubakar Aliyu, his A group and all of that. So who are they? Since writing to the Inspector General of Police, we have made further investigation into the address from which the email was sent, the A group properties at yahoo.com. Does it really belong to Mr. Abubakar Aliyu, or is anybody can form a Yahoo account after all and call it anything? So it will not be fair to just say, oh, because the as a name of a particular coin was, but we then investigated further before we even engaged the material at all. Filing registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. You know, when you register at Corporate Affairs Commission, you also had some of your details. So for A Group Properties. A Group Properties at yahoo.com was listed in their filing, has been used as the email address of A Group Construction, a company established on March 8, 2011. So that company is a special purpose vehicle, just to perpetuate a particular, that is what it's all about. The CAC filings include a resolution on company-headed paper dated 26 September 2011. The email address given for the company is agrouproperties at yahoo.com. Now, I'm going to spell out because, you know, you can clone and use, you can say agrap property. The address from which the Adoke email was sent is A Group Properties. That is AGROUPPROPERTIES at Yahoo, as in YAHOO.com, COM, not COUK. And then when we checked at the Corporate Affairs Commission, the company of Abubakar Aliu, part of their document, that part of their information that I gave to the Corporate Affairs Commission, this is the email in case if they are similar. It is AGROUPPROPERTIES at YAHOO.com. Do they sound familiar? Good. A Group Construction is one of 6 companies known to have received part of the $801 million transferred by JP Morgan to Malabu Oil and Gas. The company received $157 million. What job did it do for Nigeria? It received $157 million. Mr. Aliu Abubakar was a founding director and shareholder of A Group Construction and still held those roles in 2011 when the email was sent. And when the company received monies from the OPL245 deal, bank documents relating to a First Bank account for Novel Properties and Development Company Limited also recorded this email address. Let's check it again. AGROUPPROPERTIES at YAHOO.com. I hope it's styling. Being given as the contact email for Aliu Abubakar. The bank documents, and we have copies from the Milan case file, are now public documents. So it is not that, how did you get it? It's in the public domain. Novel Properties and Development Company Limited also received money emanating from OPL245 deal to the tune of $30 million. Mr. Bello Mohamed Adoke has a long-standing relationship with Mr. Abubakar Aliu. In his recently published autobiography titled Burden of Service, Mr. Adoke admitted this much when he said, Alhaji Abubakar Aliu, a builder and a developer whom I had been acquainted with for a long time, ideally approached me with an offer to sell me a house of 500 million. Mr. Abubakar, like Mr. Adoke, is currently being prosecuted by the FCC for money laundering and other charges in relation to the OPL245 deal. Mr. Adoke is backing up the wrong tree and police conspiracy. Since Mr. Adoke's complaint was filed to the IGP, Mr. Olanrewaju Suraju, together with his lawyer, have attended the IGP Monitoring Unit office in Abuja on 6 occasions. This visit has generated considerable travel and accommodation costs, given that Mr. Suraju is normally based in Lagos. However, during the last 4 months, a separate investigation into the origin of the email in question was commenced by the Police Cyber Crimes Unit, together with Interpol, based on the counter petition submitted to the IGP. Please note that the IGP officially announced the disbandment of the IGP Monitoring Unit, the unit that gave a private a report to a private citizen. The IG sent you on errand, you reported to Adoke. This is what we're having in Nigeria. Based on the counter petition submitted to the IGP, please note that the IGP officially announced the disbandment of the IGP unit outside Abuja and reform of the Abuja units. As such, the IGP unit investigation files were supposed to be transferred over to the cyber crimes unit for a professional and conclusive investigation. Despite these circumstances, the Adoke petition was curiously retained by IGP monitoring unit. They refused blatantly to release the file to the cyber crimes unit, headed by a much more senior police officer. You see, these are some of the things in our institutions that needs to be addressed if we have to make progress as a people. Define a clear directive of the IGP and signal from the DIG force FCID on the transfer of the file to cyber crimes unit in cooperation with Interpol. However, we have seen as an apparent attempt to manipulate police investigation would appear to be at play here. Before discussing this ongoing incident and to place our concerns in context, I will explain the following. So for the avoidance of doubt, Mr. Adoke's claims are highly defamatory and false, and our organization utterly refused them, and we have filed a civil action for defamation against Mr. Adoke. Mr. Adoke's complaint also accused us of being involved in a purportedly fake telephone interview by Rai journalist, Italian state broadcaster, with a Mr. Adoke. We utterly refute this claim. Rai did in fact conduct an interview which was claimed to be with a Mr. Adoke, and which was broadcast by Rai in Italy and subsequently widely reported in Nigeria. We are not in the business of media. We are not. Sincerely, go and check. Each time we are saying anything, don't we run to you, the media? So this is for Rai, the media company in Italy, to state how it got who it interviewed, whether it was Mohamed Abudoke or a Mohamed Adoke. That is not our own business, and that is not the substance of the matter. You cannot just go and complain. How is that our business? Go and meet the media organizations that reported it in Nigeria, and then from there, they can walk back to see whether Rai indeed interviewed a Mohamed Adoke or a Mohamed Adoke. Encounter with the IGP monitoring unit, and this is important that we put this clearly. Mr. Suraj received a telephone call from IGP monitoring unit through Inspector Abdul on the 30th of April 2021, inviting him for an interview with head of unit on April 1st, 2021. In line with the organization's commitment to the OPL245 matter and support for all institutions of government, we work especially with all anti-corruption institutions of government in this country. And that is something that many of you here can validate us for. On the matter since 2013, the officer who invited all parties to the meeting was not available due to unexpected assignment to Bayelsa. Another appointment was scheduled for 14th May 2021. It was on this day that Mr. Suraju was, he left his house in Lagos, bought plane ticket, flew to Abuja, booked hotel. He checked in the hotel, went to see the police that, oh, you have invited me for a meeting. And then they detained him. And you are all aware of that incident. We had to get somebody to get him out on bail. And this was since, this is since when the traveler started. He wrote 16 pages of statements on that day alone, 16 pages, giving information to the police as much as they will ever need. Considering the nature of interrogation observed to have departed from the substance of Adoke's petition to bordering on personal and organizational issues, and the IGP's directive limiting the IGP monitoring unit's activities to monitoring of police officers' conduct. That is the business of this unit. They not only did they insist on this matter, even despite the directive that the IG has given, they also left the substance of the matter to be probing into things that are not in contention. And of course, that is why they will not be able to see that EDA is a registered organization. EDA and our international partners submitted a counter petition to the Inspector General of Police, highlighting the issues, attaching relevant supporting documents, and demanded fair, professional, and impartial investigation of the petition and the allegations contained in it. The counter petition was assigned to DIG FCID by the Inspector General of Police. This counter petition being investigated by the Cyber Crimes Unit and Interpol under the supervision of DIG FCID obviously gave Adoke and partners sleepless nights. When the Cyber Crimes Unit invited Mr. Suraju through his lawyer for adoption of the counter petition, the IGP monitoring unit suddenly woke up with a new officer in charge, a DSP, Chinedu Onwuka, who claimed that the file was just assigned to him for a review and invited Mr. Suraju for another meeting with Mr. Adoke. At the IGP unit, and mind you, for all of the times that Larry Suraju went to the police, only once did he and Adoke eventually meet. It is always that Adoke is not available. It's not available. At the IGP unit, considering the cost implication of traveling to Abuja for both Cyber Crimes Unit and the suddenly renewed attention of the IGP monitoring unit, despite the IGP's disbandment and directive for submission of all files to IGP units in IGP unit's possession to the IG's office for appropriate reassignment, lawyers to EDA and his partners submitted a request for consolidation of the investigation to the IGP's office via a letter we dated 8 July 2021. Whereas the IGP unit DSP Chinedu Onwuka was particularly desperate to have Mr. Suraju meet with Mr. Adoke to the extent of visiting EDA's office with a colleague of his physically in Lagos from Abuja without announcing. We approached the court for a fundamental right enforcement because, I mean, once a policeman takes an issue very personal, we need to be careful. This is the standard all over the world. You can't be too sure of what the interest is. So we went to the court to protect Mr. Suraju from any harassment, and this was granted. We have evidence of it here. Of course, this also enraged Mr. Onwuka, who made a number of boasts when he and Larry Suraju eventually met afterwards. Of course, the time he visited was a time when Larry Suraju was out of the country on personal and family matters. So it's surprising when they came out and said, I jumped bail, he did this, he did that. We have evidence of correspondence with him, between him and Larry Suraju, that I will not be available for the next 2 weeks. I have to attend to personal and family matters. And he agreed, only for them to now come to our office when they knew was, you know, so whereas visit to the IGP units on return from, so immediately Larry Suraju came back from his trip. He contacted the IGP monitoring unit. I am back. I will be seeing you soon. The man insisted that he should come immediately. And Larry Suraju was like, no, I have to observe the COVID-19 protocol. I have to quarantine myself, you know. So, and he did this for the required number of days before setting out. As a responsible citizen, I believe that should not be something that should irk a government official. So Larry Suraju then traveled to Abuja on Thursday, 12th August 2021. On that same day, another 4 pages of statement was written for this same unit by Mr. Suraju. His shorty, who had been harassed and intimidated, just pulled the rug off his feet, from beneath his feet, by saying, I am no longer standing shorty for this person. But it took God's intervention and goodwill of well-meaning Nigerians for another shorty to come and ensure that Larry Suraju could walk out of that office, the headquarters of Nigerian police, as a free man on that day that he visited. Imagine you left your home, told your family, oh, I'm dashing to Abuja for an invite to the police, I'll be back, only for them to be reading in the news media that you have been detained. This is very traumatizing. When people do these stupid things to others, they don't think about the implications of it. For whatever crumbs or whatever considerations they are doing these things, it baffles me. Mr. Suraju eventually returned to the IGP unit on 19th August. On his way from an official function in Uyo, That is because at that visit again, Mr. Adoke was not available. This time he met with the new, so by this time the IGP has appointed a new head of the IGP monitoring unit, ACP Ibrahim Musa, in the company of DSP Onwuka and ASP Dauda. This time Mr. Ahmed Bagge, a certain lawyer called Ahmed Bagge, who claims to be Adoke's friend, was present. Another round of statement was given by Mr. Suraju. And at that point, the police wanted to know about whether Eda was registered or not. And Mr. Suraju, of course, said, check, we don't need to bother about it. You don't write to the CAC or check their website. Apparently, they have been checking the wrong website wrongly. You know, we also need to educate our government officials about some of these things. Because eventually, when he directed them to the appropriate place, they saw evidence that Eda is registered. So it's shocking. So you can understand why we disown such a report that was purported to have come from the police, because the officer in charge, confirmed to their boss, their new boss, in the presence of Suraju, that they have found that Eda is indeed registered. So we could not see Adoke on that day, and Mr. Aliu begged that another date should be fixed, and they agreed on the following day. At Suraju's expense, hotel in Abuja are not run by charity, are they? Good, thank you. And of course, he had to be changing flights. Sometimes he will go expecting to leave within a day, and it leads to the end of the week. So the following day, Mr. Adoke eventually came and they met. Well, there were some, but they met. Yes, they met. I would like to keep it at that, but the police have record of the things that transpired. So, contrary to the claims in the published report of the IGP unit, Mr. Suraju gave over 20 pages of statement and several documents to the IGP unit and was present at the unit at 6 different times. If untampered with, we challenge the IGP unit. Visitors' records to the unit would reveal all these visits by Mr. Suraju to the police. So we challenge them to make those records available. So allegation that Eda did not verify an email before going to public is a very nonsensical and silly allegation. You know, it's very laughable and nonsensical. He quoted in the purported report that Eda did not verify whether Adoke sent it. What's even our business to do that? She's Adoke who should go and meet with the Milan prosecutor and the British prosecutor and JP Morgan to prove that he didn't send the email. That shouldn't be our own business. So we challenge the IP unit to provide evidence of sharing the email on our Twitter, because they said we have been sharing. Sharing where? Bring the source of the sharing. You know? And one would have expected that even if Adoke had wanted to write against them, maybe he should have written against the media. Because everything that Eda is using is from the media. You know? So Eda, as a diligent organization, indeed verified the email through the Italian prosecutor. And we have letter attached to that. Eda instructed our lawyer to request confirmation of source of the email, and the Italian prosecutor replied our lawyer officially, not by phone call, not by text message, with a copy of the MLA from the United Kingdom, and officially confirmed he received the email with other documents from the UK Serious Fraud Office. These documents were submitted to the IGP unit. It is pertinent to ask at this point, the investigation at this point, what investigation did the unit actually conduct, the IGP unit? Did they really conduct any investigation? Because nothing in their report showed that they conducted an investigation into what the petition claimed. These documents were submitted to the, it is pertinent to ask at this point what investigation did the unit actually conduct, because if that phony report is anything to go by, it would appear that rather than conducting any investigation, officers of the unit were simply, and I say this categorically, were simply acting out Mr. Adoke's unholy script. And if nothing proves, what more would you have when you wrote a report to a private citizen in an official investigation? And then you now wrote on that report that you now put a disclaimer on that report. So what is the essence of the report? Does he need it so that he will read it and feel good about himself? Does it give him the kicks to read such? Because you have rendered that same report useless by issuing a disclaimer on it that you cannot use this report anywhere. It's just for your information. So does it make him happy? Does it make him feel like, okay, after I didn't commit a sin or something? It's very strange, the kind of kicks that people get from strange sources in this country. Also, alleged attempt at connecting Adoke to AALU. We didn't do that. I've read that to you earlier. Adoke himself established their connection. Mr. Abubakar, like Mr. Adoke, is currently being prosecuted by EFCC. Together, they are prosecuting them. So we also didn't establish their connection. Even the law knows that they are connected. Then they also allege that we are an unregistered organization. So you see why we must really pity people sometimes, because, you know, I don't know which is worse, whether if you think that people don't have capacity to do something, or they are, or they have no shame. I don't know which best describe this situation, because nothing can be more ridiculous and embarrassing from a highly placed police unit, and thus reinforce our suspicion that the purported report from the IGP unit is a figment of the imagination of Mr. Adoke and his corrupt media lackeys. The Corporate Affairs Commission officially registered EDA on 24th February 2004, long before Adoke ever thought of becoming the Attorney General of the state. This is an organization that has instituted local and international actions against government and individuals since 2013 on this OPL245. Since 2013, we have been instituting action both at home and abroad. And what we hear is that we are. And then, of course, they also said that Larry Suraju is guilty of cyber stalking. So we'll appreciate really where this misinformation arose. With the avalanche of material provided to the IGP unit, meanwhile, we take solace in the fact that Cyber Crimes Unit and Interpol Office of the Police are still investigating and expect a more professional and thorough report from them. There are over 90,000 documents in the case file of the Malibu deal, and we shall be producing them for public consumption from time to time. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, we wish to restate for the obtained time that the true substance of this matter is that some crooks stole from the people of Nigeria over $1 billion and are desperate to subvert the course of justice so that they will get away with their crime by any means possible. The other substance is to establish whether indeed EDA and our partners forged an email, which we only came to know about when it was presented in evidence in open court. And that if not Mohammed Adoke Bello, then who originated that email? It is unfortunate that despite claims by the government of the day to fighting corruption, some persons of ill intentions are still able to manipulate critical institutions of government to fester their criminal interests. Olarewaju Suraju, Healthy Resource Center, and our international anti-corruption partners have suffered considerable reputational assault by the manipulation of the fact by Mr. Adoke and his turncoat media charlatans. We intend to explore the full extent of the law to seek redress and succor. We must at this juncture praise and commend the vast investigative work done by Nigeria and foreign media in unraveling this fraud, particularly the efforts of Premium Times and Sahara Reporters stands out and form the major source of all the information we have used in prosecuting this patriotic campaign. We thank you for your attention. Aluta continua. Victoria Asata, I am Arigba Sulaiman Alalieda Resource Center. Thank you very much.
Please kindly put your hands together for. While he was addressing, people were sending messages, and someone said, "How come you don't have Adoke online?" We would have loved to have him. They also mentioned the name of Dr. Abati, who he hired to write for him, to also be online. But you see, where I'm going is that it's an open forum. It's open. We are laying everything bare. Yes, we all want corruption to be fought. We all want, whether you want Nigeria divided or you want Nigeria united, it's a different thing. We are talking of corruption here, and that people should stop stealing. It's a different thing entirely. And you see, the point being made here is that if care is not taken, those who are supposed to be behind bars will be the ones that are chasing people on the street. And this is an evidence of this. And then the other one is, once people have that advantage to put billions of naira in their pockets, it becomes easy for them to buy the media, to buy clergy people to pray for them to build mosques and churches, and think they are bribing God. You understand? But everything has been laid bare here. Yes, number one is EDA registered. They did that to scare friends of EDA, including funders, to make them think, this organization is not here. And like I said, it's an open forum. If you still want to ask question whether EDA is registered or not, you are free to ask that question. But what was displayed there was the certificates issued by Corporate Affairs Commission. There's nothing else that can prove whether EDA is registered or not. The other one is, yes, if an organization is telling you that it has thousands of materials to show on an issue, he's not saying 10, not 5, thousands of materials. And these materials are materials tendered in courts outside Nigeria. Again, we need to know that one of the principal actors in this case, former Minister Dani Tete, he has been convicted and sentenced somewhere. And in the process, yes, he was convicted for money laundering. And in the process, materials were tendered in court. It's not just a backyard thing. It took time before the conviction took place. So, and in doing that, they went through processes which led to bringing together materials. And these are materials that EDA, through his friends abroad, through his partners abroad, can help all of us who want these materials to have access to them. What we are saying here is that if we must stamp out stealing in this country, then all of us must be able to put our feet on the ground and say no once. Yes, the tea is there. I'm going to ask the chairman of this forum, Mr. Arigbabu, that do we combine it, because people are eager to ask questions and we want to take questions. This is not a press conference. This is a round table between civil society groups, media, citizens of this country, via Zoom, via anything, who wants to ask questions. I've been part of a forum where Dr. Don Hobart from Canada came and he analyzed that with this OPL245 alone, Nigeria stands to lose something to the tune of 20 billion US dollars. It made the analysis. So you know how many of these, our new generation universities, to $20 billion can build. You know how many hospitals $20 billion can build. You know, so this is what we are talking about. And at the risk of some element of some shenanigans, reducing this to an abuse between Lanrewaju Suraja and this thing. Nigerians, this is in your domain. Everybody, let us query this issue. So I want to ask, do we take some tea? and come back to ask question, or you want us to go straight to question time? So let's decide.
If I'm to be authoritarian, let me say we should combine.
Okay, we
I
should.
don't know if that would sound well with everybody.
Yeah. Okay, we go do the question. Okay. So.
Okay, so people can actually.
Do we go to Milan court before we decide? Question. All right. Exhaustively, please ask your questions. And those on Zoom, those partaking on Zoom too, can also ask their question. So let's take the first round of questions. 5 questions. 5 questions. First round, 1. That's number 1. Number 2. You want to ask question? Okay. Are people? Number 3. Okay, we have number 3 from Zoom. Number 4, Shina Loremika. Number 5. Okay, Adiola Shoeta on Zoom. Okay, so we take that first 5. 1, 2 from Zoom, 3 in-house. Okay, so we start with you. Where is the movable microphone? Okay, they have to come here. Okay, please, you have to come here because those on Zoom may not hear you if we use the other mic. You're welcome. Let's bear it out. Let's ask our questions. You're welcome. Introduce yourself and your question.
My name is Wale Abidin. I represent Security Monitor. Thank you, Mr. Head Secretary. You have said it all. You've, even though we read some of them before, you make it one-on-one this time around. Few questions here before some other things that I would like to put forward in this forum, not only for Eda, but for some of my colleagues, especially media colleagues here. Okay, so first one is that how many times did Mr. Suraj honored police invitation? How many times? And each time, you mentioned 6, if I'm correct. And each time, how many days did he take them to release him? And at a point that he was detained, I know I only put a call through him when he couldn't pick. I sent a message to some platforms where we were to ask if he was actually detained. How many times, how many days or hours did it take them to release him? Then another question is, when the one that he was later, maybe a lawyer or someone was later involved for shorty, what was the conditions for his release? Were they so stringent that we begin to look at what they are having in mind? I asked a question, who is police working for in this Adoke case? I want to believe is my own personal opinion headline. Who is Adoke, who is police working for? And the last one here is that Ruben Abati, I think he lied because what he claimed that Eda is not registered and is found to be lie. Was there any plan by Eda to charge him or challenge him or ask him a question about that? Because he put that to public domain, and that is not too good for the image of Eda. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, who is coming next? I just know that Mr. Abati in his write-up quoted. He was quoting. So I wouldn't know. You still have to answer that question.
Good afternoon, all. My name is Fabian Anao. I work with Radio Nigeria. Fabian Anao, Radio Nigeria. Thank you for the details of this OPL245. I've been following Heather on that same issue. Okay, now I just have 3 short questions. In the course of your paper, you talked about filing a civil case against Mohammed Adoke. I want you to give us the details of that case. You also talked about those who were discharged from the Milan court, that you're trying to go back, to take them back to court. I also need further clarification on that. And then lastly, I'm also wondering, or maybe why the police chose to keep inviting Suraj to Abuja is because he never gave them the cost of his flight ticket and hotels. Because ordinarily, you can't invite me to Abuja all the way from Lagos without thinking of where I will stay, what I will eat, and how I will get to Abuja. Maybe he trekked from Lagos to Abuja. I know somebody have done it in the past, and so it is possible. And so if I come once, twice, thrice, and himself did not give, maybe we should also investigate Suraj.
Thank you. We are going to investigate Suraj. Please, let's take Dr. Oduto from the Zoom. Yes, Dr. Oduto. Then Adiola Shuetan should be waiting to take his own turn after Dr. Oduto. You come.
Thank you very much. My question / intervention is quite, I'll try to make it brief. I was quite shocked on the occasion, the one occasion I attended this invitation along with Lanre to the police headquarters in Abuja. I just felt that it would be good to be there with him in person, moral support. So I was there with a senior advocate of Nigeria who accompanied him. That must have been the second visit. The entire atmosphere at that encounter was oppressive. The police were rude, they were dismissive, they were unprofessional. The encounter was designed to oppress the gentleman who was invited and those of us who accompanied him there. And at any rate, it was a meaningless meeting. We couldn't see where this was going. They didn't have their ducks laid out in a straight line. And the entire incident just ended up with them saying, okay, go and come back at another time. And it shocked me that the Nigerian police could conduct any investigation at all. I'm not even any investigation at all on that level of unprofessional conduct, on that rude basis, on that no clear. It was all a question of meet this person in that room, then go and meet that guy in that room, and then come back into this room. Any investigation at all should not be conducted like that. So that's just to add to the surprise of those of you who are wondering how many times he went there and what he went through. Clearly, corruption is fighting back here. But I'm not going to engage on that level. What I want us to think about now is how to bring the fight here. It's good that we engage the rogues at home. It's good that we continue to push that case until we get back every last single dollar that belongs to Nigeria from those who are holding it and holding them to account and making sure there's punishment for those who assisted. But the bank, whether it's Chase, I don't want to mention names here and now, but we know the banks. How could a bank be fooled by an email from an unverified account? We need to hear from that bank. Did they believe it was from Adoke? If they didn't believe it was from Adoke, then they should be accountable in their own personal. If they believe it was Adoke, and that is backed up by a separate phone call, who was that phone call held with? Was that person convinced that he was speaking to Adoke? At any rate, the money in anti-corruption law and practice, we say follow the money. At any rate, did any money enter any Adoke's account? Because if money went into an Adoke's account, it can only be the Adoke who had a phone call and an email. Monies don't just chase invisible Adokes all around. The whole thing is perplexing, is worrying. And please, my question is, because you insisted on the question, how do we bring the fight here to that bank that was dealing with crooks? I teach banking law, and I would teach any of my students that the conditions under which money was passed into private hands by that bank should be impossible in the modern world, even in Nigeria. So a bank that does that, how do we bring that fight to them? It should be just as rough and tough for them to evade justice as it is for Adoke. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Oduto. University of Kent. Dr. Dupta is calling from University of Kent. We want to take Adeola Shueta. Is he still there? Adeola Shueta, is he still there? Yeah. Let's take 2 in, 2 out. So we're coming back home after Adeola Shueta. Okay, you want to ask question?
Are you hearing me? Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, first thing I want to commend the courage of header team.
Please
For
be a
this,
little bit more audible. We can't hear you, sir.
Okay.
Move close to
Are you
your
hearing me
mic.
now?
Yes, sir.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, please go ahead now.
Okay. I want to commend header team for this long protracted battle against, not only against corruption, but against Nigerian ruling class. Because it's not easy to fight drug and oil cartel. These are the most dangerous cartels, gangsters in the world. What Bruno Sulaiman has just read to us, it shows us how Nigeria is very, very rich and why Nigeria is very, very poor. And that is about how our oil economy is managed and mismanaged. Malabu and Adoke and Co., they are just a window for us to know what has happened and what is happening and what is going to happen if our oil economy is still dominated by just few individuals. Because you look at it this way, Malabu is just a company. And what that means is that any company can just become billionaires next tomorrow, investing virtually nothing. If you look at even what Adoke wrote in his book, in his storybook, which I refer to as Tales by Moonlight, you discover that it's not about any big deal to become multi-billionaires in Nigeria. You just get a company, get people in government, give you oil block. You are not even going to do much, pay about $2 million, whatever. Even the bank is ready. And you have Shell, Eni, and other multinational corporations who receive stolen goods, stolen oil block, stolen oil well. Because in this system, I've gone through many documents, and I'm still going through many documents. What really happened is just mere theft. Forget all this procedure. Because when you look at it this way, this started even when Obasanjo was around. And you can discover from day one, even the Malabu people did not disclose the identity, total identity of the owners of that company, including a son of Abacha. He only put Sonny and never did any thorough investigation. Then I asked myself, when I was reading through documents, why is Abacha's son now becoming courageous to be part of those who are claiming, profit sharing among those thieves, including Etete and what have you. So, in essence, we still come back to ownership and control of our oil economy. If you still allow this privatization, the regulation, what have you, on the basis of the owners, then we are joking. I ask myself at times, why can't these oil blocks belong to communities and states? And of course, pay something to government. Because what Malabu did, nothing. Anybody here can do it. Just have a company. Give you oil block, get the banks who are also in the. There's nothing accidental here. The last person, I think second to the last person that spoke, thinking that the banks made the mistake. No, you don't trade by accident.
Muted. He must have muted himself. He has muted himself.
Did you mute yourself, Mr. Shueta? We can't hear you again. Okay, while we are trying to attend to whatever technical, Mr. Shinalo Remika, please, we are going to take Mr. Tunde Salam also from Zoom, but Mr. Shinalo Remika, Comrade Shinalo Remika, please, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, friends and associates. I really want to intervene by also posing this question. Was the National Association of Nigerian Students noted for a lot of progressive struggle? Was it registered?
Oh.
Don't we have a Freedom of Information Act? Please, does the Freedom of Information Act require you to speak on public interest matter until you are a registered organization? Does the Freedom of Information says that you should understand English before you speak in public interest? Even a foreigner can come into Nigeria and ask questions in public interest. What we have seen and that I've been following is what I have called management by ambush. The police, they know the truth, they are professional, but they decide what is to be done at every particular time. There is nowhere organized crime is taking place in this country that the police will not know if they want to know. If you commit the crime, before you step out of the room, if the police want to effect your arrest, they know what to do. The police have different detention facility, including underground facility. If they want to put you in open cell, they know what to do. And I feel that what we are doing today, to the glory of God, reminds me of people like Professor Awojobi. Many years ago, when I've not even written JAM, he talked about our oil money and how to squander it. And he asked, where has the oil money gone? I think what we are doing today is a living memory to the person of Professor Awojobi, and we should do more of it. Finally, I want to say this. In case we don't know, like Adiola Shueton was saying, it is the problem of handling strategic economy to individual person that is creating this general problem for us. Mr. J.B. Morgan was also an individual who strategically floated a company in the iron and steel stroke railway industry worldwide. And he started middling one country to the other until it's our own turn in Nigeria. Many years ago, if you are stinkingly rich and you want to spend money, you go to Lebanon. If you are midway, you go to Ivory Coast. Today, if you are stinkingly rich or you are a rogue and you want to spend money, you go to Dubai. Many years ago, only an insane person wants to go to Dubai. It was a desert that there was nothing attractive. But people like Morgan decided to say, look at the world map and say, this is the next destination, traffic, tourism. If we also design and organize and say, if you are a loot, don't come to Nigeria. Don't do business with Nigeria if you are not a trustworthy businessman. It is possible. And that's why I feel whatever we are doing here should not end here. On our pages, on our columns, on our social media, we should link what is going on with this oil fraud and supply of electricity in our home, water in our community, roads in our state. I don't want to deviate, but it interests me that when my friend, who we have met severally in this platform, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, took appointment, one of the cardinal goal promises between him and Oga Buhari was that fix that Lagos-Ibadan Express. Has that road been fixed? And I'm saying if we are not careful, that road will never be fixed. We have been told that, my friend, in the East, that they will deliver the second Niger bridge for them. All the loot they collected from ATM Abacha, they told us they will use it for the second Niger bridge. What has happened? And just on Monday, one of our friends, who is also a relation of a powerful Nigerian, not just ordinary Inspector General of Police, retired, but the chairman, Police Service Commission, his own cousin or nephew was also arrested, like snail on Monday. And we are saying if we don't speak out, they will come for each and every one of us quietly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to know if Mr. Atunde Salami is still waiting on Zoom to talk. Is he there? Is he ready to go? Because after him, we will allow responses from this side. And if we have some more, we take. Is Buna ready to go? So if Buna is ready to go, let's take Buna. Comrade Buna, the floor is yours. Unmute yourself.
Okay, good afternoon. Let me start by just saying kudos to ADA Resource for all the organization has been doing, and those that has always stood beside the organization. I was actually going to ask about the relevance of this so-called registration, and how does it have to, what do we actually need this registration for when we want to say the truth? But some of this has been asked. I want to just say something here that I think EDA is somehow being bourgeoistic in its approach at times. And what I mean by that is, to be very brief, this battle that Larry Suraj is facing is not actually him, but I see it as a battle between the exploiters in this society and the exploited. I see it as a battle between the oppressors and the oppressed. So I want to suggest here that the next whatever gathering or public briefing that ELDA will be organizing should be on the streets. It should be openly declared. I mean, the next gathering, why tell the media to come to Ojota, to Gani Fahimi Center, or to come to, so that they will know that they are actually fighting the Nigerian people on the streets. We are yet to unravel those behind the NSAS, the NSAS thing that went really so. Some of us are on the side of the government that such things should not, but this one, let us declare openly that the Nigerian masses, the civil society, yes, the civil society is actually in this game. They want to gag us. Anytime you want to say the truth, anytime you want to reveal in your move to emancipate the oppressed from all oppression and exploitations, they will find one way or the other to gag you. So it's a battle. Now the thing has been declared, all this relevance stress is EDA resource not registered. And on that ground, we keep telling somebody to be coming to Abuja just to frustrate a man that is sincerely striving. So I'm putting this forward that let's organize the next program on the street, on a popular Nigerian street. That's it. Thank you.
We shall meet on the street, Comrade Buna. Thank you very much. Quickly, Tunde Salam. Let's take Tunde
Okay,
Salam.
thank you very much. My name is Tunde Salman. I'm calling from Abuja.
Tunde Salam, time is of essence.
Yes, thank you very much. As I said, I commend the doggedness of EDA and the indomitable spirit of Larry Suraj. I also want to rest on the last comments of let's collectivize this engagement beyond the EDA and Suraj alone, because this is a case of corruption fighting back, and the attempt is to discredit EDA or Suraj and frustrate the effort. because when they are now using the so to say core media platform, online media platform, and see our own image, you understand? That's mean that for all civil society and media, we need to solidarize together. How do we ensure that we give them back? Already, there's no doubt about the case, about the fact of the case that these are haste on Nigeria, which has happened. The lesson learned there is that all the new interventions in terms of PIA, in terms of other legislations that guide this sector, including the procurement, to be able to now make sure that such kind of thing cannot happen, and we recover our money, which we will do. But in the meantime, the effort is to delay and frustrate those cases coming up. Then, aside going to the field, for demonstration, particularly in Abuja too, what do we do, you understand, to now counterbalancing such kind of occasional wrong dossier, misinformation or fake news coming from, so to say, respected media and the law enforcement agency? What is the role of all these also anti-corruption agencies that have been mandated to fight this corruption, and seeing the frustration, the travail of other?
Thank you, Tunde Salam. Quickly, Tejan Bolton from Akwa Ibom. Is it there? Tejan Bolton, Akwa Ibom. Is it there?
Yes. Yes, comrade, I'm here.
Yeah, yes. You have the floor, Tejan.
Okay, yes. So quickly, my name is Tejan Bolton. I'm calling from Policy Alert. I just want to commend Heda for being so consistent and dogged on this matter. This is Nigeria's resources that have been so brazenly and so barefacedly stolen, and some people want to now grandstand even on top of their theft. It just goes to show how far into the pits Nigeria has gone. I like the way Comrade Shino and was it Buna that linked this issue to our social and development outcomes and the need for the broader citizenry to get involved in the conversation, not just a conversation, but a very strong, civic statement of civic disobedience. We need to make a very strong statement as a broader movement, a coalition of civic actors across media, civil society, and the general public to say that these are Nigerian resources being stolen. This has implications for health, has implications for agriculture, has implications for transportation, and so on. See, Buhari went back to the National Assembly to borrow how much? 4 billion naira, how many days ago? Another $4 billion. How much did this Malabu case, steal from Nigeria? We don't have any business being the borrowing cap in hand country that we've become, perpetually on our knees, begging. This is because we have not taken good care of what we have, what nature has blessed us with. And the extractive sector is one place where we depend on for the economy, at least as of now. The bigger question is that this sector is quickly declining. Very soon, it is not going to be as important to the economy as it appears to be currently because of the energy transition. If we continue allowing this sector to be stolen like this, it has very dire implications for the people of regions where these resources are being taken from, because the oil and gas in their domains will not soon become stranded assets, and thereby implications will become stranded communities. So the point I'm trying to make here is that we should not look at this as just a case of corruption. We should look at it as a development issue, as an issue that has very, fundamental implications, for how well Nigeria can plan a sustainable socio-economic future for its citizens. So I want to say thank you, and even use this opportunity to commend Global Witness, Recommon, Corner House, those international partners of HIDA who have stuck with them, on this struggle. I think that we need to broaden the fronts for this fight. Just in conclusion, I'd like to inform some of the media friends who are in the room that Policy Alert, we've been partners with HIDA for some time. We have a project ongoing that involves investigative journalism components on on ownership transparency, beneficial ownership, and contract transparency. And will be very soon, by next week, the call for pitches will be out. We would like to see pitches related to this OPL245 case. We see journalists who are ready to take up this matter, use the data that HEDA has provided, to do further investigation, to bring, to bring a beneficial ownership and contract transparency.
Thank you very much. Gradually, we are getting somewhere. You have to respond, but please, the last contribution from in-house coming from Comrade Abayomi, please, you have to make it snappy, brief. 2 more hands on Zoom. Okay, after Comrade Abayomi, you come, please come forward. 3 hands on Zoom.
I think it's important to also emphasize that this is not about HIDA and Larry Suraj. This is about corruption. And I think, I know journalists here are not the gatekeeper per se. I know what the challenge look like. I know how difficult it is also to even fight corruption, even within the media itself. No, let's be frank with ourselves. This problem is not easy. I'm sure you have read Ruben Abati on this issue. If you have not read Ruben Abati, please, the first thing to do as a journalist is to go and read. It's not about HIDA is not registered. Read what Abati said and understand where this whole issue is coming from. And my challenge here, and that's where I'm going to stop, is for journalists here. The lady who just spoke said something about when you have access to data, raw data from organizations like HIDA, what is left for journalists to do is to investigate some of this issue. I don't want you to rely on what we are just, even the police authority in Abuja, what are you doing to investigate to get their own side of the story? Because at the end of the day, what is going to boil down to is that there's an attempt to keep and kill this issue. And that is why you can see that all effort, even from the police, the statement issued by the police is like exonerating, Adoke and the like. But the truth of the matter is that my challenge to journalists here is, please, let us dig deeper. Let us ask questions from people that should offer us explanation for what they have done, including Adoke and the police authority, who have done everything possible, to suppress this issue. It's important. And I know as we do this, if it's possible, I learn some of your, the gatekeeper in the office as to why you must do some of these things. So it's not just enough for us to say this is what HIDA has done. I think there's a need for you to bring your own angle to this issue, to investigate this issue. That is what I just want to say. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. If you accuse a man of forging one document and he says he has 9,000 more documents, 30,000, 90,000, you accuse him of forging one and he says he has 90,000. The case speaks for itself. Zoom, Harrison Nidim. We are taking Harrison. Harrison, please unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, first and foremost, I want to commend HEDA for what they've been doing over the years in fighting corruption. I also want to tell Mr. Surai, sorry for going through all this for the entire Nigerians, because actually HEDA is fighting a cause that the whole Nigeria would have gotten up to fight for. And with the presentation, I couldn't hold it back because my heart bleeds right now, that with the facts being presented outside, we still come back home to fight ourselves. Instead of come back home and say, okay, we are sorry for what we have done. Can we just give up what we have left and then promise to pay, even if we don't pay till we die? Now, but we come back and start fighting people who are sincere, who just come out. HEDA did not formulate any evidence that was tendered. HEDA only walked in, collected the evidence and put it out to the world. So here's my take. I think we have journalists around. Everybody in the hall have one way or the other to mirror what we have heard today to the society. And I think why Heather is being targeted is because it seems Heather alone and maybe Premium Times and Sahara reporters are just the ones trying to push this story, trying to make sure that the right things are being done. But we can now have this fight in 1,000,001 faces. Everybody out there, there is a way. If you don't know, if you can try lengthy words, just let's use infographics now to demonstrate how much have Adoke stolen, how much, what can this amount of money do? We can do it in an infographics. It would have built us 50,000 universities scattered across the 6 geopolitical zones. It would have afforded us good roads, maybe 1,000 roads. It could have afforded us, can we say, 1 million secondary schools, 50 primary schools. Let's just spread this information. Let me see them, how the corrupt elements in the force that would have actually acted as, will I say, acted as those who are supposed to cramp Adoke and the rest of them and tell them, no, you must vomit this money.
Thank you.
Let's see how they come after all of us.
Thank
So
you
let
very much.
us all go out there and extensively fight for Nigeria. We can't just leave this fight alone for Heather.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. At the risk of marginalizing the media people here, we need questions from in-house. If you have questions to ask, do you have, yeah? Wale, who else? Okay. Please, let's make it straight to.
All right. Trend of that story, you will know clearly that this is just a deliberate victimization of the person of Heather, especially for some of us that are following the track of Heather as an organization. Well, what I want to say is that we know how we can do this thing. We know how we can get it on. We know how we can put the right thing there. By the time they see it, they also will know that, okay, now these are the merits of the case. So I want to encourage us, media guys, please let us do that. And secondly, I don't know if it is possible, Barrister, if Heather can, because the IDP is under the supervision of the presidency, so to say. Is it possible for Heather to write, or maybe not only Heather, the coalition of civil society groups, to write to the president on this matter and present the facts? Because this is a case of Nigerian is about to be scammed, and people are still trying to raise their head and no, we will do that with security. So I don't know if it is possible for us to have an open letter to the president on this issue beyond the
open letter to the president on this issue. That is noted. Now, we want to try as much as possible to manage the time as much as we can. 10 more minutes to bring everything to an end. 3, Daisy, Pepu, and Dr. Anthony, please, if you can do it in 1 minute. If you can do it in 1 minute each. And 1 minute each, 1 minute each. Then we'll give the remaining 5 minutes for responses. Pepu, please unmute. 1 minute, Pepu. Is it there? Dr. Anthony, if he's there. Dr. Anthony, please unmute if you are there.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay. I think some colleagues have spoken of efforts by Heather to fight corruption in Nigeria. But what I want to share with the room is that we need to look beyond Heather alone. I know some other persons have spoken how we could come together to fight corruption or thereabout. My own strong view is that we should ponder who is paying these bills. Alhaji Suraju being invited to Abuja, flight, a hotel, someone have to stand in for him and all that. We have to find a way to see how we can stand together to fight corruption. This has happened to an organization that I'm leading, where a minister harassed our staff and we were summoned to Abuja by a government agency that is supposed to superintend over CSOs. And no one asked, how did you come? How did you get there? How did you return? So all the bills that HEDA is paying or bankrolling, I think we have to find a way to see how we could be useful, how we could support HEDA, how we could make contributions to see that this whole burden is not all about HEDA, because it's about our country. The civic space, it's about the civic space. If Mr. Doke have any case of misdemeanor or magnified forgery against HEDA, he could approach the courts rather than using the police. And as we speak, I think we have to look beyond the police and harassment of HEDA or its official and look broadly about the civic space. Is the civic space going to survive in the next 10 years in Nigeria or 20 years or thereabout, or for the generations coming behind us? That's my own view. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony. Daisy, are you there? People, are you there? Last opportunity, 1 minute. We may draw the curtain if it's not there because our time is far spent. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let's come back home for responses. Sorry, the curtain is drawn.
Okay, thank you, dear colleagues. A number of questions. Leave a couple of them to our friend and comrade Inibe to give expert opinion, on some of the questions that are related to the position of the law on some of the things we have mentioned. So I've seen questions about how many times did Larry Suraju, 6 times on 6 occasions. Whether the police is aware of the costs of his going. I leave that to your imagination. Then about how many times was he detained? So let me clear the air on that. Technically, he was detained once. The very first time he went to the police on his own volition, when they sent him a request that we want to see you, an invite, he went from Lagos to Abuja. In fact, they called that I want to come on your invite, but the IPO was not available. They fixed a date. Somebody who did such with you and came, and you have the indecency to detain such a person just because you are acting out a script. So he was detained and a bail was gotten. Of course, it's an administrative bail. It's not like it's not a proper detention. It's not like he's being remanded by, it's not like a bail being granted by a court where you then have conditionalities. But what they simply would expect, and somebody asked if the conditions are stringent. Yes, indeed, they are somewhat stringent for somebody who just went to visit, expecting that he will say a side of the story and go home, and then you expect him to come up with somebody to get his bail, not just anybody on the streets of Abuja, but somebody in the civil service with certain conditionalities, And so the second time when that happened, was because, and we know, we are just we just want to close our eyes from some of the shenanigans that is going on. So the police, the IGP unit, we keep saying the police, we must make it clear, it's the IGP unit. Obviously, had harassed the man who was standing bail, who was standing shorty for Larry Suraju. And the man got frustrated. And we had hints of his frustration. We did ask him, do you want to, if you want to, go back on this and, we can make alternative arrangements. He didn't have the courage to say it, but eventually in the presence of the police, he did. And we got somebody else. Of course, it takes a lot of goodwill to have gotten somebody, because the man dropped his letter of withdrawal at almost past the working hours. It was almost past the time of working hours. But fortunately, there are so many friends of the truth in Abuja. And so we were able to get somebody to stand in for Larry Suraju. And then I mentioned something in passing, about the fact that Larry Suraju and Mr. Adoke eventually met in the presence of the police. Before they met, as a character who had been coming, who claimed that is the one barrister, Bagye, who claimed that he's a friend of Adoke. We saw him, pressing all the buttons behind and, behaving as if he essentially owned the police. And so at one of the meetings, he couldn't keep his decorum, and he went out and insulted and tried to assault Larry Suraju, but he was calmly put in his place in the presence of the police. There was no assault, but there was attempt at intimidation. He said a lot of unprintable words, but Larry Suraju is very well trained Lagos boy. So the man was put in his place. Then the following day, the real masquerade came out wanting to know who is this person challenging our authority. So Adoke himself was in court, came, and well, he threw decorum into the air at some point also. All this big man nonsense. Do you know who you are dealing with? Did you come to me? Did you? Who the hell are you? There's nothing personal between Mohammed Adoke and Larry Suraju. It's a matter of some people defrauded this country. And your name has been mentioned. Clear your name and move on. Who wants to know you? When you were relevant in office, we didn't know you. Men of yesteryears, they've forgotten that their times will come to an end. And this is instructive to so many of them who are still in office doing all this. Do you know who I am? Someday you'll be nobody. Right now, we know who you are. You are a man who is being dogged for corruption. That's who you are, not Attorney General of anything. So there was this, what you would call autarky, because Adoke himself went out in an attempt, to intimidate and see whether he can cower Larry Suraju and, break his resolve. But let me report to the House that equally he met his match. I won't say more than that. Yeah. So there's a question about, so the details about the civil case you have instituted against Adoke, which he has not responded to. Yes, we'll make that available to you. We have it. Yes, indeed, there is an appeal ongoing in the Milan judgment. You understand, when it is true, people go to court. Court of first instance may say, oh, you have, because sincerely, with all due respect to the Milan court, there were quite a number of things that didn't go well, that didn't tally between what transpired during prosecution, the trial, and the judgment that eventually came out. So it is not only us that are not satisfied with the ruling. Nigeria is not satisfied, so Nigeria is appealing. The Milan prosecutor, the prosecutor is a state agent. He's also appealing. So, and until the process of the appellate process is exhausted, it will be full idea of the people who are acquitted to say that you see, we didn't commit any sin. And I said something very important about that judgment. Mohamed Adoke was not on the charge list in Italy, but his name came out from the rulings. And I don't think he should be the one flaunting that judgment in Nigeria. It actually should worry him. But our level of sense of shame is not the same. Okay, so how do we take the fight to JP Morgan in the UK? Of course, that's one of the questions I would like Mr. Inibe to just take a brief mention on. And also to say that the gentleman who asked the question, Dr. Gbenga Duto, is a professor of law, teaching law in the University of Kent. And also to say that we will be counting on himself and some of our other friends, Nicolas Hildeard, Simon, Anthony, and our European friends who have been part of helping us to get to the bottom of this, to advise on what the law is in that jurisdiction. Once there is a civil action going on, why would we find proper local standard to prosecute anything? And how would that run in face of a civil prosecution that is going on? Nigeria is already suing JP Morgan in that country. But beyond that, I'm sure Mr. Inibe also have some things that we could probably do or advise. So I think those are a lot of the comments I totally align with the comments that have been made. That is, sorry? The IPO that came to, because it just showed up at our office, that's Mr. Onwuka, DSP. He just showed up at our office at almost closing hours, demanding to see Larry Suraju, who was unavailable. That's the end of that. But we're surprised at his visit, So other than that, and of course, people have asked about the issue of, like we said, we are registered, but our registration has nothing to even do with our resolve. That is why we said, and we're only talking about elders registration. We are surprised they even brought that out. In our deposition here, we have said that they were going outside of the actual complaints of the petition, asking other questions that are not relevant, that shows that the whole attempt is just to intimidate. We take note of that. Because as bona fide citizens of this country, we have every right, to blow the whistle, which is what we have done. So I will allow Mr. Inibe to make a couple of comments on this.
Thank you for inviting me, Heda. I don't know if I can take this off. I have been a friend of Heda for quite some time. The first comment I want to make is that I was at the 4CID, Police Intelligence and Investigation Department in Abuja over a different matter. You would have heard about the Miracle Morning Suleiman thing. Another case where police was acting for a big man. So I met Suraj at that department on that day, and I could see the ambience, the hostility. And we got to talk about this, and he told me what he was going through. And I was really not surprised. Because, like I've always said on record, in the real sense of it, we do not really have a police in this country. What we have is a private militia that works for the ruling class. It is just for hire. The police is a private militia. And you see, we keep saying they are investigating. I can tell you as a lawyer, police really don't investigate anything. Even if it is a murder case or a rape case, in fact, in most cases, it is what the complainant says they should do that they do. And that is clearly exemplified in this case. For me, that is the tragedy of our country. The second point I want to make is on this issue. I don't know why we are talking about registration. I have had cause to represent Heda in courts. in an action instituted by HEDA, and I represented HEDA as the counsel in that matter, in the name of HEDA. And I exhibited the certificate of incorporation. And the court found indeed that HEDA is registered. So this argument that is HEDA registered or not is an academic question. And I think the media shouldn't be distracted by it. But let us assume for a second that there is some credibility to what is apparently a baseless allegation. How does that affect the issue in contention? Under Section 40 of the Constitution, there's a constitutional right to freedom of association. That right inures not only to individuals who are natural persons as in me, or juristic persons in terms of entities that are registered like companies and so on. That right also extends to unincorporated associations. And the Supreme Court had cause to pronounce on this in 1989, in the case of Ganifa with Nigerian Bar Association, that unregistered association is recognized under the Constitution. So even if HEDA was not registered, it has nothing to do with the credibility of their allegation or their petition against Mohammed Adoke. So for the police to have even deviated from the substance of the matter before them to dwell on frivolity was very unfortunate. So I am just restating that legally and constitutionally, unincorporated associations are recognized under the Constitution. That is why groups like the Civil Liberties Organization, the foremost human rights body in Nigeria, till date is not registered. So members of that association can even maintain an action in a representative capacity. So let us not dwell on this issue of registration. The media should treat it as a foregone matter. Now, again, I must also say that the question was asked, should we write to the president? The question is, will he even read the letter? Will he even read the petition? You see, because let us be realistic. Nobody is fighting corruption in this regime. It is an embarrassment that a president who came to power promising to fight corruption is now in office and an organization activist that have taken risks to expose the fleecing of their collective patrimony is being haunted by what is supposed to be a law enforcement agency. That is not a country that you say there is somebody fighting corruption. That is not a country. And you see why this case of, why the media must also follow this up and why it is particularly offensive. You have Mohammed Adoke name listed in a charge at the Federal High Court, prosecuted by the federal government of Nigeria. You have the federal government of Nigeria litigating in a foreign country over the stealing of Nigerian money. And a body that is helping the government to expose that fraud is being haunted by a public institution funded by the federal government that is still prosecuting Adoke. So this is the madness. This is the unparalleled lunacy that we have to deal with in this country. And for me, again, I say it is totally condemnable. Again, I must also make the point that under the law, when the police extend invitation to a suspect for the purpose of investigation, the moment that person reports and honor that investigation, you don't have rights. You don't have any basis legally to say, I'm arresting you, bring a shorty. Because it is an invitation which you have honored. So the moment you say, oh, go and bring a shorty, otherwise I'll detain you, the implication is that you have converted invitation to arrest. And why are you subjecting somebody who has honored your invitation to arrest? To the point of even imposing stringent conditions that are unconstitutional and illegal. So this is the unprofessionalism. This is the lack of discipline. This is the corruption that the police has continued to manifest. And that is why when we read reports, oh, that there is a police investigation report. Authored by who? About what? So the media must also, again, pay attention to this. Now, Mr. Suleiman asked the question, how can we work with, engage JP Morgan or foreign entities on this? The reality is that HEDA, I'm sure, is already working on that, but we have to strengthen their partnership with their international, partners to also get this matter at the front burner in UK, in Italy, and every other country that is connected to this. But listen to this. And you see, there was a report, I think, a few days, 24, 48 hours ago or thereabouts, that exposed what we have always known, the fleecing of NNPC. The fact that it is alleged that about $800 million was used to fund Buhari's election from NNPC. This is also a disclosure in a foreign court. And under Jonathan, about $200 million was also received. This is also a disclosure in a foreign court. So when you have this same issue, somebody who was a chief law officer, if you look at the Constitution, section 150 of the Constitution and section 174 of the Constitution, the Attorney General is the chief law officer. This is why this is painful. Adoke at the material time was a chief law officer of the Federation. He has the primary responsibility for enforcement of law. And records have shown that while he had left office, while he was not in office, there was some form of interaction with foreign entity in respect of the assets of this country. Again, that is not something that should be tolerated. But because we live in a country where corruption is celebrated, that is why people like Adoke will even have the audacity to go to the police. Somebody that at a point was in hiding, was wanted, a fugitive at some point, will have the temerity to go to the police to victimize an anti-corruption organization. It is very painful. The last point I'm going to make is that the National Assembly must take the issue of the issue of witness protection, and of course, whistleblowers seriously. The non-passage of the whistleblowers bill is also responsible for Heda and Suraj being haunted. And you see, if that bill were to be passed, even anonymous persons, and this is a regime that claims to have a whistleblower policy. So does it mean that if anonymous persons have written the petition or raised the issue that Heda has raised, that it will not have warranted or necessitated an investigation, even if that report or allegation is credible? So what am I saying? I am saying that even if the allegation against Adoke were to be raised by anonymous persons, what should be important to a country that is depending on loans to survive should be whether we can recover that money or not, and not even the identity of the person who wrote the petition. So I am encouraging Suraj, I'm encouraging Heda not to give up. We have to continue, as discouraging as it is, to do our best to salvage our country, because in the final analysis, we are all victims of this decay, this fleecing by cancerous ruling class. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think that should be all from our own end here. Yes, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give ourselves, okay, you are holding cups of tea. You may not be able to clap, but at the same time, a round of applause. Honestly, the real message, the take-home message here is that we run the risk of some people stealing our money and still haunting us. We run the risk of some people stealing money and still putting us in their pockets. And whatever is anybody's opinion about how this country should be run is different from this idea of people stealing money. What we are saying is that corruption must stop. And if you look at this example, we go through it. We've been on this case on and on. And this case started in the days of General Sani Abacha. Started in the days of General Sani Abacha. And like I said, Dr. Don Obert came here and he did an extensive work. He's an expert. And he told us that Nigeria is losing fortune as far as this OPL245 is concerned. It has been cancelled, recancelled, taken from one person to another, and in all, Nigeria money keep rolling from one person's hand to the other. Once again, I want to thank all of you for being here, but the take home is that please and please, this fight must not die here. We should re-energize the platform. Someone suggested that we should go to the street. We've been on the street before. I personally was part of about 750 people that marched to the minister's office in Abuja to deliver petition on this issue. OPL245 is just one oil well. There are several of them given to people, to tailors, for organizers, to retired generals. You understand? And people have taken this thing and they came back to tell us that they have money that they cannot spend. They have a lot of money. There's a case of a general who got one OPL, another OPL, who told us that he has a lot of money. In this country that Nigeria is going about looking for money. So yours sincerely, we thank you all for your attention, including those on Zoom that has been part of what we are doing. But the issue is that it is never over until it is over. So what we want you to do, please, is you've heard so many things here. The documents that was read here will be shared amongst us. You understand? And there are facts for those who want to still dig. There are facts for those who want to still dig into this thing. This is just the tip of the iceberg. One out of several incidents of theft in this country. Yours, on behalf of human and environmental, agenda, yes, what syndrome did you say it is? Adokia syndrome. Okay. Adokia syndrome. Okay, so you know, this is no, the time is over, but you can allow to preach outside the sermon, provided that it's not going to be more than 1 minute. Can you do that? 1 minute, or you do 1 minute?
Dear colleagues, I'm a journalist. If you're a journalist here, I want to tell you something. In this case, we can sense a particular case of police acting the script of someone. But we don't want to preempt that. I want to charge us, I want to advise us that we should be on this matter. We should call the police. We should investigate the unit that is investigating Eda and Mr. Suraj. We should also investigate them. We should ask them questions, how they come about their report. We should ask, what is the meaning? If you are here and you want to write about it, and you don't have the contact of Frank Imba, Force Headquarters PRO, or anybody there, ask. Their number, their contact are available. We can make it available. If there are others that we don't have their contact, we can share it with ourselves. Let's investigate that unit that investigate this matter. Let's talk to them. Let them know that we are watching that. We are watching them. Let inform them that we are also following this matter. Let us ask questions. How do they come about a report? They are still disclaiming that this report, you cannot use it in any form for any other reason apart from this report. If a report is not for any other thing, why are you bringing out the report? Why are you using Nigeria resources to bring out a report that you cannot use for anything? Please ask questions. Ask many people. Ask stakeholders. Ask questions. If you need contact, ask. There are contact of people you can ask. IGP number, we have it. You can ask IGP that how did they come about their report? Let us know. We can investigate police. I have investigated police before. So we can do it. It is doable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you. Once again, you're all welcome. We hope to meet you again. Thanks and God bless. Get to see my face. No, I'm not hiding my face. No, he's in trouble. No, I'm not hiding my face. I didn't wear a mask while I was talking.
money to switch for cardio.